Huh? Wait, let's see. Oh, wait. Are we supposed to? Oh, you know, you work at Eat right now. Everybody's there now.
That's all.
Oh.
Well, he even back. So I'm done.
Hello everyone, my name is Carl Kirkland. I am the Director of the Office of Business Development here at the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. Part of my role is the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, where we certify small businesses so they can be able to participate on some of our procurement opportunities. I also want to introduce our procurement team. They're Wade, our Director of Procurement, Linda D'Angelo and Lou Castellucci. They're the gurus of our procurement. We work very diligently with this team to make sure that the contract opportunities are available for you as small business owners. At this time, I want to introduce our Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Fonsa Kaver.
Good morning. Thank you, Carl, for the brief introduction there, and welcome to the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. On behalf of down in a bit, I wanted to welcome you to RTA and say a few words. Again, Dr. Fonse Kaver, I'm the Chief Operating Officer. As the Chief Operating Officer, I manage all of the apparatus of the company that are customer facing. So that's the drivers, that's the mechanics, the transit police, and anyone that interacts with the customers within our operations division. And so the projects that are built within this organization, as the internal organization, we are the customer. And so our engineering department, our facilities departments, and other will engage in contracts, and we are the internal customer. I want to talk a little bit about our organization, and then to also kind of thank Carl for his leadership in providing this forum and providing our DBE program and organization. So our organization is driven by a mission of connecting the community. And historically, that mission, prior to our CEO, was a more transportation-oriented community that talked about, we want to provide safe, reliable, clean, and courteous customers. But our new CEO changed that to being connecting the communities. And how do we connect the communities? For sure, a major component of how we connect the communities through bus routes, right? It's the most obvious of our connections. But we look to have deeper connections within the community that comes with other aspects of our being. One of our connections is in our DBE program. How do we connect and create equity and allow individuals to participate in the spending of RTA? We also engage in transit-oriented development. How do we develop neighborhoods, and in particularly developing those neighborhoods which are defined as environmental justice neighborhoods for the technical term in our field. Those are communities of color or communities of poverty, and so we want to be connections in those communities. Even if we're not providing a bus, we want to still be connections. We see our role as an economic engine to this community. Our state and our federal government also believe that. And so during COVID-19, we were an essential function because without transportation, many of our economies would have cratered. Our DBE program is tremendously important to us. In each of our board meetings, we continue to have and track our DBE compliance. Our goal for this year is 21.5% of the value of the contracts, of our major contracts, to be spent with DBEs. And Carl and his team work very hard to engage the community, to find new avenues for us to engage DBEs. and we look forward to those avenues. You will have the support of our team extended, Carl's team and our procurement team, but also the operations division who wants to work with the DBEs so that they may be able to provide both the services that we need, but also the growth that our community needs. And so with that, again, I want to welcome you to the Greater Cleveland RTA. I will not be staying, but if you should need anything, please just ask and they'll be able to come find me for the rest of the day. So thank you and welcome.
Hello, I'm Erin Kirkpatrick. I'm the president of the AKA team and CEO, and also I'm the president of NAMAC. When we had the vision to bring NAMAC here, it's a national organization. It's been in existence for over 50 years. Started by many members of the Congressional Black Caucus with our own Lou Stokes, Congressman Lake Congressman Lou Stokes, who was a big part of bringing it to the United States. We brought the NAMAC Northern Ohio chapter here, I believe it was in 2017, and it's to make sure that we have a voice for minorities in construction. We have several programs that they can tell you about at the table. We are happy to be in partnership with GCP in this program, Building the Environment, Building Clean, and I just want to welcome everybody here. Thank you for coming. We are reinvigorating our level up. This is very, very, very exciting for us. We started up during the pandemic and had some challenges. You are going to get some dynamic information from some financial leaders here. There's also another financial, there's Kerry Miller from the Hebrew Free Loan Association, and it sounds so crazy, they just give money. So talk on her before you leave, because I don't even think the application process might not be as stringent, but it gives you that leeway of some funds that you may want to get. Just shout out to every of the organizations up here. Every single one I have had a relationship, and they've all been fruitful. I now have the pleasure of introducing to you to my best friend, my sister, my Irish twin, the COO of our other company, the Jabali Group, Monica Davis. She's the moderator for the panel.
Thank you very much and welcome this afternoon. And I was going to say that I was selected because of my prowess of moderating, but now that you know that's my sister, I was voluntold by my big sister, and so I am here. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Again, my name is Monica Davis, and I am the Chief Operating Officer for the Jabali Group, which is the family organization for many companies: Harvest of Ohio, Harvest Processing, Harvest Grows, soon to be Mabuno. Wait for an announcement near you. I'm also the managing partner and owner of Service Master by Davis with my business partner, my husband, John Davis. Yes, I like to work with family. We have been in business for 16 years now, and that's when we knew it was important to establish business relationships when our company was fledgling because of high interest loans that we had taken on because we were not equipped with appropriate financial literacy. So we weren't able to grow our business to capacity, and that's when we started to reach out to organizations and start those business banking relationships, first with our own bank, Key Bank. We moved to have a relationship with other institutions that were very instrumental in our growth, the Faith Community Credit Union. Then we got support from ECDI, which is represented today. Then NDC through a partnership with the Greater Cleveland Urban League. And then we had a relationship with Citizens Bank, and finally, One United Bank, the nation's largest black-owned bank. We established a relationship with them after the murder of George Floyd. We thought it was part of our commitment to grow our own, to have an impact in growing our businesses, growing our people, growing our footprint so that we can be instrumental in advocacy and civil rights. And that was the small piece that we could do to make a difference. We will have surveys at the end. Hilton Smith said to make sure I let you guys know we will have surveys. And I will promise to leave enough time after the question and answer period so we can just have an open discussion. I think that's where it's really going to get some of the meat and potato, if we can have a dialogue about the topic, building banking relationships, addressing the racial gap, the wealth gap, and what we can do, what can our experts help us with to do that. I want you to think about this room as a small schoolhouse in rural Georgia, where there's black teachers and black students learning and teaching one another. There's no books, there's no chalkboards, there's barely pencils and paper, and still we rise. But it's all about perspective, because that classroom and this classroom is our one think tank, almost like an HBCU. It's common knowledge that systemic barriers baked into institutions and laws have not allowed black and brown people to create wealth. Thus, the wealth gap remains. When Thurgood Marshall and his brothers and their allies wanted to desegregate schools, it was not because they wanted to be or have children in schools with white people. It was because they wanted black and brown children to be in schools with resources, with quality education, with money, with impact, with restrooms, with chalk, with books, with knowledge, the basics for building blocks. Today I want to thank NAMAC, the Northern Ohio chapter, Greater Cleveland Partnership, GCP, and the Greater Cleveland RTA for inviting us for this huge conversation in this multi-room, multi-floor facility with technology, with black and brown teachers, guests, allies, lights, camera, action. At this time, I would like to have our panelists introduce themselves and give a 1 to 2 minute elevator speech for our group. This is something I know you guys do all the time when you do community outreach with young people, to have them do their elevator speech. So let's have you introduce yourself at this time and give your elevator speech. Okay, we'll start right here. Yep, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Am I good? Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Wesley Gillespie, and I'm the president of Erie Bank. Erie Bank is a community bank, $5 billion community bank, actually headquartered in Erie, Pennsylvania, but my office is here in Cleveland, which will continue to be here in Cleveland. I've been banking my whole adult life, primarily working with small and medium-sized businesses and a little bit of retail along the way. I kind of worked through large banks early in my career, which is where I cut my teeth. Got all of my training, got to really learn the business of banking, business banking, commercial lending, small business, and landed here in a community bank that's a great fit for me. And we, as a community bank, we really focus on the community. We really focus on, and when I say focus on the community, what does the community need? They need local decision making. They need people who understand the community. They need people that are invested in the community. And you need people that really live in the community. So, that is where we focus. And I know folks in the audience, and we really strive to meet our customers where they are and try to deliver expertise so that, like you talked about, small business, particularly minority-owned, black-owned businesses, can have the resources to grow and the expertise that we can provide, that I can provide. I do a lot of these types of things because oftentimes, this is where the real talk occurs, right? This is really where the rubber meets the road, and maybe you might not hear some of this elsewhere. So it's my pleasure to be here today. I hope I can add one or two nuggets to help you take back to your businesses, to implement and execute. Really just here to help. So thank you for inviting me. I'll pass it to my esteemed colleague over here.
Thank you, Wesley, and thank you all for being here. My name is David Reynolds, and I work for J.P. Morgan Chase. I'm a managing director. I spent the last 35 years in wealth management. So I'm the person here on the panel that hopefully can talk about growing that wealth while you're building your business at the same time. I'm born and raised in this area, lived all around the country, New York, Chicago, Houston, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and came back here about 15 years ago. So looking forward to working with you all and answer some questions today.
Can you guys hear me? You guys cannot hear me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jasmine Dixon. I am the Vice President of Business Growth Development for ECDI, which stands for the Economic and Community Development Institute. I'm going to tell you guys a little story. When I graduated from college, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, right? And so I had just quit a job, and I was sitting there, and I couldn't find another job. It was around, after the housing crisis and everything, so it was a little rough. And I'm watching TV, and my grandmother hands me the mail, and I come across the Ebony magazine that said How to Build Wealth from 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And I start going through that book, and I said, this is it. I want to know everything there is to know about what it takes to generate wealth for yourself and your family and be able to pass along that same information to others so that I can be a part of helping the community build wealth. And so I started my career actually at Chase. Chase is where I got started. I learned a lot there. I worked in the investment area for a while. I did business banking, and then I ended up coming to ECDI, which we are a small business lender. We're a community development financial institution. So we provide funding to small businesses who we consider to be underbanked, underserved. So for whatever reason, they're unable to get traditional bank financing. It could be for credit. It could be because they're a startup. It could be some things that are just going on within the economy that is positioning banks to tighten up a little bit, where we can kind of come in and take on that risk. But in addition to providing loans for small businesses, we also provide technical assistance. So that's that one-on-one coaching, that's that training, access to opportunities, anything that we can do to help underbanked and underserved entrepreneurs to grow. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Press the button there, right there.
Right here.
Yep, push. Yep, there you go.
Push. Well, I say you didn't push for me.
I was going to say, you ain't said it.
Good morning. My name is Steve Sims, and it's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the invitation. I currently serve as the president and CEO of a small credit union called the Greater Cleveland Community Credit Union. Jasmine has basically outlined our platform, which is really to make sure that we are focused on the betterment of the community, to make sure that we're working with those individuals who might otherwise be unbanked, underbanked, or completely locked out. We work with businesses and individuals, and it's a lot of work. Unlike Mr. Gillespie's organization that has $5 billion in assets, we have $10 billion. So you could imagine that our focus is a serious focus on making sure that we do what we do, and what we do it well. I look around the room and I see a number of faces of people that I know, so a lot of people will recognize that I've been around for a long time. I didn't paint my hair gray, it turned this way. I've had a chance to work in public accounting. I've worked for a number of different financial institutions. The one that really had the greatest impact on me, which a lot of individuals in this room will not remember, is an organization called First Bank National Association. It was a black-owned financial institution. I had an opportunity to serve on that board. All of the board members at that time had a great input impression on me and help me see the world the way that I do. But I always like to call out a few names, and the one name that I'll call out today is John Bustamante. And if you don't know that name and if you don't know that person, look it up. It's a part of Cleveland's history, and it's important to me. But I've also worked in economic development for both the county and the city. I ran both those departments. In some of my banking experiences, I've done strategic planning, public finance, merger involvement. Like I said, I've even done some multinational banking, but my focus has always been on how can I support the people in my community, the people that are trying to pull themselves up to advance, and I'm committed to that. And I think that through the Greater Cleveland Community Credit Union, I'm well suited to do that, and so I encourage you to look us up and see how we might help you, because one of our models this year is Better Together, but one of our underlying models is people helping people.
Excellent. Well, good afternoon. My name is Norman Bliss. I'm the president of Community Reinvestment Advisors. I want to say thank you to Jen Dial for thinking about me to be on the panel today. It's an honor to be on such a distinguished panel. I've been in banking for 30 years, and when you've been around that long, you kind of met and worked with some of these excellent people. David and I worked at Key Bank. Wes and I worked at First American Bank. I'm a member of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So we got Brother Smith, Sims, and others. So I really feel comfortable. You know, when you kind of get into the house and you feel comfortable, you want to have a conversation. I'm kind of getting that vibe right now. I want to just take a couple things. 30 years in banking, 30 years focusing on the Community Reinvestment Act. CRA is the cornerstone of what we're trying to do here today. It absolutely 100% is. The Community Reinvestment Act was passed in 1977. It requires financial institutions to reinvest in underserved communities. You may have heard the term redlining, where there was a time a map was drawn in the community, et cetera, et cetera. CRA requires institutions to reinvest in underserved communities. They reinvest through lending, investments, and services. And I've been blessed to be with 4 institutions in my career. Each institution we achieved an outstanding rating. A big part of my career was at Key Bank. Love Key Bank. I heard last week I got the 9th consecutive outstanding. Last week they got the 11th. So they're continuing to kind of do that work. Every 3 years, institutions are examined for CRA. Okay, Norm, why is that important? Well, they get a rating, and that rating is public. So you can go to your bank today and say, hey, what was your CRA rating? Chances are it's going to be outstanding if it's probably one of the folks here at the table, maybe satisfactory, and if it's anything below satisfactory, my advice to you is find another bank. Okay. This rating is critically important for all banks when they want to grow, expand, mergers and acquisitions, open up the branch network. And I guess I just want to say that I mentioned that I had been blessed to lead 4 institutions in getting those outstanding ratings. No easy task. Kind of like the LeBron James of CRA. He's going to win tonight, though. That doesn't work. But here's the thing I want to leave with you, just to keep in mind when you think about CRA, you think about Norm and Community Reinvestment Advisors. We're here to help. That's my tagline, is we're here to help. CRA is a wide highway that impacts every business, every nonprofit, every municipality, every quasi-governmental organization. And we want to add our advice to leverage CRA to impact underserved communities across the country. And here's the number. Everybody write this number down. $500 billion is spent annually, collectively in the banking industry for CRA. $500 billion. So it's our goal to help you to get access to some of those funds. That's it for now.
Wow. Thank you to our panelists. If that's the elevator speech, we are in for a treat today. Steve said, you've never heard of this bank, First Bank. And it was funny because my sister and I, we used to be in the back seat of our parents' car when we would drive to First Bank. We would be so excited, oh, we're going to the Black Bank, we're going to the Black Bank. And so that's just part of giving back to the community, so I'm so glad you brought that up. All right, well, let's start with the focus of today's discussion, building banking relationships and closing the racial wealth gap. The first time I saw that term when I walked into my bank several years ago at Key, and it said relationship manager on the person's door. And I said, relationship manager? What is a relationship manager doing at a bank? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. For the panelists, and you can pick and choose who goes first. What exactly does that relationship look like? Who is it with? And how can it potentially lessen the gap?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Ladies first. I feel like it looks like not just access, but attainment. So you should be able to go into a bank, and here's the thing, like, people are people. Sometimes you may go in front of a banker, and that might not be the individual you need to be speaking with. If they're not willing to sit down and give you all the information that you're asking for, and even provide information that you didn't ask for, okay? So I think it looks like being able to pick up the phone and call someone and saying, hey, you know, I'm thinking about getting a loan. Who should I speak to? What should I do? I think it looks like saying, hey, what are some of the products and services that I can utilize within your bank? I think it looks like being able to attain the products and services that are available, not just having the access. So people teaching you how do you actually obtain and leverage a loan to reinvest in your business and to grow your business, not simply saying, hey, these are the products that are available. So for me, when I was a banker and I was actually in the branch, people knew who I was. I made it my job for people to know who I was. And so when they stopped in, they, hey, Jasmine, do you have this? Can I talk to you about this? You build that relationship with that person that you feel close to. And sometimes you're not going to always see that because people are people. But your average banking institution wants that. That's what they want. So if you feel like you're going to your bank and you don't get that type of rapport, then you find the next person who's going to give that to you. And don't be afraid to ask questions. You should be asking every question in the book. For instance, when it comes to getting financing for your business, I always tell everybody, don't ask for it when you need it. You want to have that conversation well in advance so that you are very much prepared to pull that trigger when it's time. So for me, it looks like being able to walk into a bank, know who that person is that you're having that conversation with, being able to sit down and ask as many questions as possible, being able to figure out how do you actually not just access, but attain access to the products and services that they offer, and feeling confident in the relationship that you built with this institution.
That's good. Thank you, Jasmine.
Good. You want more? Yeah. So I would say echo a lot what she said, but think about the actual name, relationship, right? So this is the person, should be your point person for access to all the myriad of services at a bank. So when you come into the bank, you may have one item that you're looking for. You want a small loan, a business loan. But as you have a discussion with this person, their job is to uncover and ask questions of you, and you should be comfortable to ask questions of them. You may go in looking for a loan and uncover 4 or 5 other items that are more important than having that loan at that time, right? Just understanding that, well, you need this loan. Well, what if you paid off some of this credit card debt, right? This is the kind of, in that name, relationship, that you should be able to come and approach that person with confidence and ask any question you want. So, and I would say a lot of that is up to you, per se, right? You have to have the confidence to go into the bank and show some exposure to yourself and vulnerability, and go in and talk to the person. Their job is to be very friendly and not judgmental and meet you where you're at. So if you're not getting that to her point, you should move on to the next person.
Yeah. Great point. Thank you.
Yeah, so I would just add ditto next to exclamation point what was already said. When I was in the banking private sector industry, we had a term that was called primacy. So we wanted to have that full relationship with our customer, not just the mortgage loan and the checking account and the small business account, but the line of credit, the credit card, because that added value to the relationship, multiple streams of income, fees and sources of income. And it also helped to keep things kind of in one roof. So a lot of entanglements, but it makes things simple to transact, more or less. But what I want to do is I want to put an S on the end of the word relationship. And I want to say, Clarence told me this a couple weeks ago, I want to say relationships, okay, relationships. Because I think it's important that we all have multiple relationships. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, there may be a great credit card company that's got super bonuses and perks that you need, or there may be a company that has that specific working capital loan that will meet my terms, and I happen to love the friendly neighborhood banker. You know, so I would encourage you to explore relationships. And I also agree that, you know, you got to earn my business too. You know, I'm bringing something to the table, and, you know, I'm bringing, you know, a daughter who's a doctor, I'm bringing a cousin who's this, and I'm who's that, you know, to the table. So you have to earn that relationship, and there's enough institutions out there that I think if you take the time, if you're tenacious, that's another one of my power words, tenacious, I think you're going to find success. But relationships is kind of the way I like it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
I didn't think I had anything to add to that question, but I'll add two things. First, as far as relationships are concerned, I would look at a banking relationship in this way. You have a primary care physician, and that's the person that you go to for everything. And then that person is responsible to tell you what specialists you need to deal with. And so look at your banking relationships in the same way. The other thing that I would say is that relationships has a totally different connotation than transaction does. And so it's important to have a relationship and not be transactional in your business with a financial institution, because as Norm indicated, your value to that institution is going to be measured by your relationship, not just a single transaction. They don't want you to only have a mortgage loan, or to only have a business loan, or to only have a signature loan. They are looking for a relationship. They want you to have deposits. They want you to do whatever type of wealth building you might do with their financial institution. And so you got to figure out how do you fit in, and they'll help you figure out how do you fit in to all of those areas.
Thank you. Very good. Jasmine made a comment about going to the bank before you need it. That is very critical, and that's what my husband and I found ourselves in with the high credit card debt, having to get money at 23%, and then that's when we went to ECDI for support, and it changed the trajectory of our business almost immediately. So, thank you for that. And people do business with people they have relationships with. People help people they have relationships with. So, thank you.
Can I add one thing?
Of course you can.
Very well said by the panel, so I don't want to be redundant, but the one thing I would add is to those here, you have more power than you think you do. As a small business owner, small business really is the economy driver for our country. And everyone said it very well, but you have more power than you think you do. So when you're going into a bank, make sure that you're respected the way you deserve. And because you also have buying power. We have more buying power than we actually realize we have collectively. The other thing I would add is building the relationship is making sure that that bank is adding value to you. You know, that's a relationship, right? You bring value to each other. Understand their process and how they make decisions in terms of when you need a loan, what's that look like? What's that process like? So that you can understand it ahead of time. But just don't forget the value you bring. Make sure that you're understanding their process and you bring value to the bank as well. So I just wanted to point that out. It's not a one-sided thing. You bring value as well.
And I would say one more thing. Education is really important, right? So before you walk into a branch, if your intent is to sit down and figure out how they can meet your needs, go on their website first. Gather as much information as you can so that you're kind of equipped to push back on certain things that you may have questions that you wouldn't have in the middle of that conversation. So it's like repetition. That's how you learn anything. You go online, you see it. Then you sit down with the banker, then you see it. And the next thing you know, you're utilizing the product. So then that is a comprehension and understanding of how that affects you and your business and how you can better utilize it. So try to do that research first, if you can, and then go in and turn around and have a conversation as well.
Okay, thank you. Great nuggets. Next question. How can schools, educators, programs, institutions such as yours promote financial literacy and wealth management education within the Black community to empower individuals to make informed financial decisions, build savings, and invest for the future?
Take that one. I would start with just talking about the school systems. And look, I grew up, went to public school, Maple Heights, and I don't care. Yeah, all right, Mustang. You know, at the end of the day, this is something that's not taught in public schools around the country, right? Checking account, credit scores, just basic things that you need to operate in a capitalist society like America, right? So when you get out of high school, you know, the first thing, my first checking account was not until I was, you know, a senior in college, right? So that said, talking about the Community Reinvestment Act, there's a lot of dollars that have been put in place around the country to educate inner city people, underserved communities to get this information. I can tell you that Chase has community managers. It is going to be across the board. Regional banks, global banks that are here locally have resources and are looking for opportunities to be in the community. They are in the community if you do the research. Yeah, I've got Chase right here. Our community manager is Teresa Morales, and her whole job is to build relationships with community leaders and present this financial literacy. So a lot of it is getting information, seeking out information to how you can learn. This is the vulnerability I'm talking about. You have to really say, look, I don't know this. I need to learn it. And you either learn it on your own through the internet, friends, or you can go to financial institutions and ask them, you know, where can we get this information? And they, trust me, it is out there, and they are eager to give it to you.
I want to add some thoughts to this question. What is the problem? We're talking about financial literacy, raising IQ. Why did it happen? Do I need to get started? Reparations, you know, GI Bill, broken promises, redlining, you know, the war on drugs. Should I keep going? Why did it happen? Okay, what are we going to do about it today? What are we? How many people are here? About 60 people. What are we going to do about it today? Because at the end of the day, there's only about 25 people that I could really, I mean, I can talk to audiences like this, I can speak at conferences, but there's like my daughters, my sisters, my cousins. Those are the people I try and wrap my arms around and pour into. I'm like a river, you know, everything is just flowing. So I would encourage us to think about the 25 people that are most influential in our lives and pour into them. You know, there's only so many of these conferences and webinars we can do, but if I tell my daughter to do something, she might do it, but at least I'm planting some seeds. But damn it, my niece is a ninth grader. I'm gonna make sure that she is on that trajectory to go to college. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's part of the answer. Then on a broader scale, it's all out there. You know, we have the collective knowledge of humankind in our hands, and every institution has a superior program. Chase, Erie Bank, Key Bank, I mean, they've got programs designed that can not only will it tell you what your deficiencies are electronically, it will give you a prescription to solve them, you know? So it's incumbent upon us to take that first step to figure out what's available. You know, it's not one size fits all, but what works for our situation, what works for our 25, 30 people, and then what could work for us more broadly as a nation and as a country.
Thank you.
I will add that, great comments. I will add that when I think about financial literacy and I think about America and I think about when you don't have financial literacy, it's been said that that's a form of economic slavery because you don't know how to work within an economic system that we have. And it's paramount, is just like slavery. It's economic slavery. And I think the financial literacy issue, the other solution is it has to start early in schools. So for those of us with, kids or sisters or cousins in the school systems, I think it's really incumbent on us to ask our schools, because I think about 25 states now require financial literacy as a part of their graduating curriculum. So it's really incumbent on us to really reach out to our school systems that we're a part of to see where they are with financial literacy in terms of their curriculum. Because it really, it makes a difference, and we have to go deeper. This financial literacy problem is not, even though there's a lot of resources out there, and I agree there are, but if you don't know how to access them, then you won't be able to utilize them effectively. But I think it starts really young. And for those of us, again, at the dinner table, in the car, at the park, wherever it can be, I would say we need to have that conversation about financial literacy and making sure that our school systems that we're a part of is really proactively disseminating, how they're using financial literacy, how they're teaching it. Because I think that's really where the rubber meets the road.
I have something to add to that real quick too. So Wes kind of touched on it at the end. I was going to say that, obviously right now this is a discussion that's coming, and there are more schools right now that are taking advantage of putting this back. Back in the day it was a thing, and they took it away for whatever reason, right? And the way I learned financial literacy was my parents. My mom had made sure I had a little bank account with a little book and all of that. School didn't do that. My mom did that. When I was 16 and I got my first job, my dad took me to the library and said, here, do your taxes. I read everything. I figured out I was doing my own taxes at 16. So my point is that we can't be reliant. Yes, everyone is to do everything they can to make sure the system is changing. That's the point. This is what we're talking about. But we can't just be reliant on that. Educate yourself so that you can educate the youth. Nieces, nephews, cousins. My niece and my nephews, they already know that's a conversation we've been having from the jump. And I'm very on them about it. These are things that you have to know as a black man and woman growing up in this world, that things are not going to be handed to you. You have to learn these things and then take advantage of the resources and also your social capital. You all now have social capital. There are people that you can meet who can give you the resources and tell you the things and fill in the gaps that you don't have, but you got to want that. So I think it's the school systems and all of that, and that's great. We're going to keep pushing for that, but it really does start at home. You have to have those conversations with your kids, but you can't if you don't know it yourself. And you have to want to know it in order to learn it and comprehend it and not run from it. Because I see a lot of our clients, they run from the financial portion of their business, and that does not benefit you whatsoever. I'm not a numbers person. People always think I'm a numbers person. I'm not. I'm a money person. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. The numbers are great, but dollar sign is what I'm looking at. So even though I never really liked math, even though that was never my thing, I actually was more of an artist growing up. I actually was going to go to school for graphic design. I knew the importance of understanding financial literacy and how to generate wealth for yourself and your community. And so I had to step outside of that because I just knew it was more important. So it absolutely starts at home.
Awesome. All right, one more question in this group of questions, and we're going to move on to a little bit more about entrepreneurship. But can you please talk about asset building strategies, such as home ownership, retirement savings, investments in stocks and bonds, and small business ownership to help black individuals and families build wealth over time?
Right, thank you for that question. First thing about wealth building is looking at the liability side of your balance sheet. What I mean by that is, how much debt do you have? So people come and sit in front of me and say, hey, I want to put money in the stock market. And as we talk about what they have, they could have credit cards at 23 and 26% interest. Is that many if any, unless I get a good market year where I can guarantee you 26% return, right? So, but I can guarantee if you pay that $10,000 credit card off at 26%, that's where I can guarantee you 26%. So starts on that liability side. But as if you say, what basic things can I do to start? Just conceptually, I would say, try and make your living space an asset. And what I mean is, as soon as you can get a condo, a small home, move out of an apartment where you're just paying someone else to get wealthy. Sometimes that's where you have to start. That's where I start, an apartment. My point is, as soon as you can make your dwelling place an asset, that's when you can, that's one of the foundational pieces to building wealth. Because then you can, as you're building your business, you're paying your mortgage. You are building equity as you are paying out to start your business, right? So you're simultaneously building a business and you're building equity as well. So foundationally, I would say that's the one piece. The other piece I would say is, I heard the word reparation. I would love for reparations, but I think there's only a few quick fixes out there. One is life insurance. For a term life insurance policy, you can get it very cheaply. What you spend on your nails, your hair on a monthly basis, you can get $100,000 up to $1 million in life insurance. Now, this deals with wealth creation. That may not benefit you, but in the unlikely event of your demise, you could leave 50, 100, $500,000, $1 million to your legacy, where it would take maybe 20, 30 years for you to build that up, just saving on a consistent basis. So I'll stop there, but those are two of the things I would start with: your dwelling place, as well, making that an asset, as well as basic life insurance to do those two things.
The life insurance thing ain't no joke. My mom gave me a policy when I was younger, and I used the cash value of a universal life policy to purchase my first car.
There you go. That's a lot of great assets.
Steve?
I'm ready. Okay, I was just making sure you were done. But you said something that you said something that made me very, very excited. Dollar signs. Okay, so absolutely, be focused on the dollars and not on the numbers. But what I would add is piggybacking on something that you said, Monica, relating to over time. Okay, I think that in terms of wealth building and wealth creation, we have to recognize that it is something that will transpire over time. It's not going to happen overnight, but that's why it's important to have a plan and to understand how you plan to move along a certain path to wealth creation and the like. And I think that as a community, often we sort of discount or minimize what we have, or we don't understand how to use what we have. And maybe that's a part of financial literacy. I'm not sure what it is, but sometimes I just believe that it's a lack of confidence, where we don't recognize that if we adjust our expenditures to our income, that we probably will be able to find a way to push something to the bottom line that could be saved and eventually given over to someone like Mr. Reynolds to have a real wealth creation plan for you. So, if we could just get to a point where we recognize that we can't live like Beyonce. We can't live like Beyonce and create wealth for ourselves. Okay, so I guess that's about what I would say, but Mr. Reynolds also said something about our unlikely demise. It's not unlikely. We all are going. And that insurance piece is important. And it may not benefit you personally, but then you know that you've set or laid a foundation for generations to come, for your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and your nephews. And term life insurance is not that expensive. And it's one of those things that maybe if I didn't get my hair done once a month, or twice a month, but if I didn't get my hair done.
Why are we talking about hair and nails?
I was well, that's true too. But I mean, the whole thing is plan what you have, and you know, with intent to be intentional about what you have and how you spend it.
Right.
I think also don't be scared to look
Can I
at your
tell you?
situation. That's the problem. I think sometimes we're scared to reality and look at everything and be like, man, I ain't making nothing. I ain't
Well, that's exactly
I
what
got
I'm
no money
saying.
left.
That's
But
exactly what I'm saying.
that's how it starts.
Right.
You have to know what's coming in and going out so that you can make the appropriate adjustments so that you can put your plan in place. So just don't get over that hump and fear. People do it the same thing with credit. People are scared to look at their credit. If you don't look at it, you can't fix it. So you just got to overcome that so that you can actually, you know, go through, get through that process, and then you're where you need to be, and then you can start. There's nothing like looking in the bank and seeing your money grow. There's nothing like it. Okay, but you got to start. So just don't be scared.
Great points.
Can I add one thing there?
Sure.
The word that we haven't said is budget. Okay. That's the thing we have to get comfortable with. And like I said, it doesn't matter how little you make or earn, doesn't matter how much you earn. A budget is where you start to create wealth, because that's how you know the purpose of your money and where it's going. You know, and you know, everybody has something, right? Everybody has something that is important to them, whether it's getting a haircut, whether it's
Some Jordans.
yeah, you know,
New tie.
and there's a place in a budget for those things that you enjoy and that you want to have in your life. You know, I don't like cutting grass, so in my budget I have a landscaper because I don't like cutting grass. Some others might like cutting grass, but if you use a budget, no matter how much, little or much you earn, that's really the big part of wealth creation. The other thing is, I talked about earlier, you don't know how much power you have. We've kind of talked about it a little bit, but the black community spends almost $2 trillion a year. $2 trillion a year. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, what are we spending it on? Is it an asset that appreciates, or are we spending a lot of our money on depreciating assets? So all the panelists talked about kind of looking at kind of where you start. Don't be afraid of it. But you really got to create a budget. And particularly if you're a business owner, you really have to have a budget. I mean, anyone has to have a budget, but when you're a business owner, really understanding your budget, what you have to, you know, pay yourself first. You know, one of the things I encourage business owners to do is treat their own income from the business like an expense. Don't pay yourself last. Treat your business owner. You need to earn an income. Treat that as an expense of the business. And so I just don't want to underestimate what the power that we have, because it's not always the income gap that causes the wealth gap. It's that we're not using our income always to build wealth. And time is on our side. The younger you are, the better position you are to build wealth. Because over time, and I didn't know this growing up. I was born in Harlem, New York. And I didn't know anybody. We were all poor. And I didn't know I was poor because we were all poor. All my friends were poor, all my family, you know, and I don't use that term I use it as a sense of endearment because we had love, we had all those things, but none of our parents had, you know, made a whole lot of money. But we didn't really realize that. But I didn't know anything about banking until well into my junior high school years. And so it's really a lack of exposure to it. So when you leave here today, I hope you all leave here exposed and no longer can say I didn't know. Because I think the topics we're touching on, we're telling you, we're hitting you with it to say, here's what you got to do. You're right, we got to start where we are. You got to start where you are. But we spend the money almost $2 trillion.
Okay. We're going to move to some of the entrepreneurial small business questions, and I know we'll come back to this conversation, but just a little story. My husband and I, we lived in a beautiful 5-bedroom home in Beechwood, Ohio, where we raised our children, had a fabulous life in that neighborhood, great education, great resources, which I talked about earlier. And then we found ourselves to be empty nesters. And almost for a year, we only were in one bedroom, the kitchen, and the TV room. And I thought, why are we still paying for the other 4 bedrooms in the basement? And so I said to him, I grew up in Warrensville, but my husband and I started our family in the city of Cleveland before moving to Beechwood. And I said, honey, we're going to move back to my parents' house. And he said, huh? You want to go back to Warrensville? I said, well, if we go back to Warrensville, we're going to have an additional, without any pay increases, we're going to have an additional $3,800 a month in the banking account every single month. And he replied, moving on up. And so that's what we did. But even more than that, we had a renter for years after our parents passed. And then my sister moved into the house first, my older sister. And while she was there, she was able to build this little itty bitty small little thing. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called the AKA team. Because she went back to the dwelling that was an asset. And our parents were gone, but they built that for us.
Yep.
And that's how you create generational wealth. Thank you.
Great story.
Amen. Preach. Is there an organ in the house?
Yes. No. Don't get me started, Rev. Hilton. Smith. All right, next. What are the key financial indicators or metrics that entrepreneurs should focus on to measure the health and growth of their business?
That's all you.
I'll get it started.
It's a big one.
A lot of times, we always hear cash flow is king. Cash is king. Cash flow is king. So obviously, I think everybody knows that you're trying to really look at what your cash flow can do for your business. The thing that I think that a lot of business owners that I've talked to kind of early in their company cycle is that they don't focus on the balance sheet. So the balance sheet is your assets and your liabilities. And we talked about that a little bit. David talked about that as personal wealth, and it's very similar for your business. The key thing one of the key things is at some point you're probably going to need debt to grow, to leverage your business. Because, a dollar of debt there's good debt and bad debt, right? Bad debt is when you go finance like a vacation, or you finance something that gives you no return. Good debt is a home, education, your business, okay? So there's nothing wrong with debt. As a matter of fact, most businesses are going to need debt at some point to grow. I say that one of the things one of the key metrics you need to look at is kind of what is your net worth of your business. So take your assets, let's say you own equipment, minus what you owe on the equipment, and that's the net worth. That's the asset minus what you owe, which is a liability, that's your net worth. That's a key metric because it really tells you as the owner and the bank how much your business is worth, which means what can you sustain if you have go through a down cycle. Can you sustain a pandemic? Can you sustain high interest rates? Can you sustain X, Y, Z? So a real key thing is as early as possible is to look at not only how much you're making, how much your net income, and I want to say a little bit about that in a minute, but also your balance sheet, and making sure that you have some net worth or equity in your business, because that tells you and your bank how much you can sustain. And there is a ratio that we look at when in terms of how much you can borrow also, which is really typically no more than 3 times your net worth. So if your net worth is $1, you can borrow up to $3. So no more than 3 times what your net worth is. So the cash flow is key. Oftentimes I also see we have to manage you want to manage your tax liability as a part of entrepreneurship also. But the other piece of it is, when you go to the bank wants to basically see that the cash flow coming from your business can support whether your lifestyle or new debt you might need to grow the business. So you can't always not pay any taxes and show no income from it. I see that a lot. I sat down with good customers who made a lot of money, but they didn't show any income. And I had to explain to them, I do what I'm doing right now. Here's what you want, $1 million from the bank, but yet you're not showing any capability of paying it back because there's no income left over. So you just have to manage that. You work with a good accountant to really help me. I'm not an accountant. But you work with a good accountant. But the balance sheet is an important piece that I think oftentimes, particularly in smaller enterprises, we don't really talk about as much. But that's going to be an important piece as a part of some of your key ratios. But your balance sheet, your net worth, by taking your assets minus your liabilities and determining what that number is. I'll let the panel answer that.
So there are certain ratios that, once you start working with a financial professional or an accountant, that they're going to look at and run numbers to figure out where you are performance-wise. There are performance ratios that are going to compare your revenue to your net income. Or is this business, are the margins right? Yeah, and that can be industry specific. Restaurants, what's the margins net profit for restaurants? Usually like around 4 or 5%. Right? So you compare what you're doing to other businesses to make sure that you're staying in line. And then the other thing too is, over time, is your business growing? Do you see a growth rate? Or is it staying the same, or is it going down? So there's different things that we would get into to figure out if the business is performing well, and we would use, as Wes said, your financial statements to determine that. We're going to use your net income, we're going to use your balance sheet, and we're going to use your profit and loss statement, also called an income statement, which shows us what your income is, shows us what your expenses is, shows us what's left over after that, right? So that's for us to determine, like, they're making money, but they have expenses. Do they have anything left over from that, right? From there, we're also going to look at your balance sheet, like he said, to determine if you were to go, things were just to go belly up, do you have enough money to pay your debts off? Would the business survive? Right? So there's a lot of metrics that we would get into, but the main thing is you want to see growth in your revenue, you want to see growth in your net profit, so those are your income after your expenses, and you want to make sure that you have enough assets to sustain your business and have healthy business by making sure you have more assets than you have liabilities, and not the other way around. Just like your personal. When you think about how you do with your personal life, right? I got money coming in, I got expenses to pay, do I have money left? It's the same thing that you would apply to your business. It's the exact same thing.
Let me add one more thing, because Jasmine said it. We certainly don't have enough time today to go through all the metrics, but a lot of this is interrelated, and it goes back to the relationships with your bank. So I know those of us that work at banks up here, you can go into your bank and say, hey, I just want to understand some of the key metrics that you look for, because they have tools that they can share with you. One tool we use is called Vertical IQ. And so whether you're a construction business or you're a retail business, you're a restaurant, Vertical IQ will tell the banker and yourself all the different positive metrics that you should be looking for, whether it's the net income, whether it's the growth rate, et cetera, et cetera. But if you work with a bank as a part of the relationship we're talking about, you can walk into Erie Bank, Chase, Credit Union, Key Bank, any bank, and they can help you understand for your industry what those metrics should look like. And that's kind of that education piece as a part of the relationship.
Right.
Don't be afraid to do that.
Right, and you got to remember, I mean, I think there's a lot of stigma out there, but actually at the end of the day, the banks are in the business to lend money, right? That's how they make their money, most of the wealth management, that type of thing. So, but they also want to get paid back, right? So the way you prove that is, if I'm a small business owner, the very first thing I'm going to do is kind of work on my fundamentals, my foundation. That foundation is, when I'm starting, could have a great idea, a great idea. I got the best cookies in America. They're selling like hotcakes. But if I don't have an accountant to help me create an infrastructure where I can show I have even a basic account, a business banking account, I can show my cash flow, I can show how my expenses are coming in, but also my assets and my cash flows coming in, and showing that to the bank, right? So if I'm starting a business, I'm hiring an accountant. We're walking hand in hand together in order to build that foundation. So when I do need money, when I do need a PPP loan, all those different things, I am bankable. I can come in with confidence to that bank. If you don't have that currently, that's something you can go get. It's not something that if you don't have at the start you can't get. You have to learn more, learn better, so you can do better, right? And so those are the fundamentals. Just like in a personal, if you want a credit card, make sure you're showing that you're paying your rent on time, all those different things to get credit. No difference in your business.
Okay, Norm, I know you have something to say about that. You talked about relationships.
Yeah, relationships. I was thinking that as we talk about businesses, lots of different types of businesses. I don't know what your revenue, what your gross margin is, what sectors you focus on, but I personally have been in a series of meetings with small businesses. I own rental property, and I've got the best carpenter, the best electrician, the best plumber, and these are gentlemen who are masters in their field, but can't go into a bank right now and get $100,000 working capital loan. There's a gap right there. And this isn't the panel to talk about the gap. We'll come back and talk about that, but there is a gap there. So as you were talking, David, it made me think about that because it's important to start on square, start things. It's a lot easier to start it right than try and fix it a little bit later. And when I say that, to go to West and to go to these banks, we got to have ourselves in order. And it's got to be, in the communication style the banks like. Tax returns, audited financials, personal financial, your credit report. And so it just stirred in me that thought of these excellent gentlemen. I'm committed to helping them with their businesses and help them grow, but they need a little more work before they can even get to a bankable transaction situation. But anyway, that was kind of on my mind as far as this.
But that goes to say, it's hard for entrepreneurs because you know your craft, you know your business, you want to work in your business. But there's two different things. It's working in your business and on your business.
Ooh.
Two different things. And you want to get into a position where you are not working in it. That's why you eventually have employees, right? In the beginning, you are the one. You're the one who's doing everything. And so the way that I try to tell clients is think about it like individual departments. Take your time to figure out what your marketing plan looks like. Schedule that time, whatever that looks like during the week. Schedule your time to look into your financial situation. And you maintain that consistency, you'll have your stuff together. When stuff happened with the pandemic, there were a lot of grants and things like that out there. You know how many people couldn't take advantage of those things because they just didn't have their together? Right? So make sure that paperwork and all those other things that you feel are not important and administrative stuff, it is key. Because as a lender, I'm going to believe whatever you put on paper. And I'm going to believe whatever you provide to me. And if you don't have it, I can't help you. You know what I mean? So take time to do those things, or they're just as important in your business.
Thank you. Steve, did you want to add anything?
I think they covered it quite well.
Okay, very good. Well,
But I will say one thing, and again, it's just an example. One of my favorite TV shows is Shark Tank.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and you will notice that one of the first things they will want to know is how much have you put into the business, and then they want to know how much revenue have you generated. And so I think that it's important to be able to demonstrate how much you put in and how much you've generated as a result of what you put in, and that there is a growth scenario. And more importantly, or as importantly, probably not more importantly, I think that there's been references to different types of credit, for example. So you don't want to walk into a financial institution in particular and look like you're totally broke. Okay, and a big part of that is to make sure that you have working capital, something that you can demonstrate that you can ensure to a limited extent, the continuation of the business. So if I don't have anything in the bank and I don't have any other resources that I can turn to that are on my balance sheet, then I probably should wait before I go asking for the assistance of someone, unless it's a special program that's designed for someone that's in your condition. But mainly, it's more important to try to position yourself where you could take advantage of traditional financing, and then if something special comes along, then you know that you're ready to participate.
Right, excellent. And now we know what questions to ask. Dave and Wesley gave us a little bit tidbits on that, so that'll be helpful. A couple more questions before we open up to questions from the audience. This one is in the weeds a little bit, but there might be an entrepreneur, small business owner in our audience that is thinking about this. Can you provide advice on strategic pricing and cost management strategies to improve profitability and competitiveness of your business?
I'll take a stab. I may not be able to answer it completely, but because every industry, every business is different from a cost standpoint. So what I would say is, I'd start off with saying, know your cost. Okay, know your true cost. If you're a business owner, know what is the cost to make the widget. What is the cost to sell the widget? What is the cost to acquire a customer? Know your numbers. Know your costs. And you work with an accountant to do that. So know your costs. If you're in business, know your costs. But then evaluate the relationships you have with your vendors, your customers, your suppliers. So this was really critical during the pandemic when businesses shut down. They really, as a bank, we were talking to companies every day, businesses every day, and we had to tell them, this is the time where you now need to go back to all your suppliers, your vendors, your customers, and look at the prices you're charging, the average price, the average cost. Is it meeting your margin that you've established as your target? And just know those numbers and get some help with that from an accountant. I can't tell you what your cost should be because every industry is different. But again, there's tools out there that can help you with that, such as something we use at the bank called Vertical IQ. And so there are tools to help you with that. But I would say you have to know what your costs are so that your product is priced right and where you're buying your supplies are priced right and you're using your cash appropriately. So that's how, I don't know if anyone else has to add, but that's what I would tell you to start with, knowing your cost.
I was going to say you shop around for suppliers like you shop around for anything else, right? Because that's gonna affect your pricing, economies of scale. If you can get in a situation where, or you're able to team up with other business owners, whether it's on a national level or a regional level, where you guys are making these purchases together, and the unit cost is cheaper, that affects your bottom line as well. So figuring out like how you can basically find new sources, new suppliers and things like that. Always keep your eye open for those things because you just never know what opportunities are out there. And it goes back to building your social capital. Get out here, network, know people, and you'll be able to find other resources that could benefit you and benefit the bottom line from a per unit perspective, not just overall of the business. But that is a very specific question that is related to a specific industry, and sometimes even drill down even deeper because one industry, it could be different segments within that. But I would say being able to know, what other suppliers exist.
Yeah, so I was blessed to serve on the Shaker Heights Board of Education for 8 years, elected office, resident of Shaker, etc. And the superintendent really led in my head to be committed to lifelong learning. So I know we're all committed to lifelong learning. So I'm answering the question. It's a little bit of a long answer. I apologize. One of the best investments I made about 10 years ago, and it cost me $125 a year. This is a Norm nugget, so if you use it, you use it. I subscribed to Harvard Business Review. Okay, I subscribed to Harvard Business Review for $125. And I went to Howard University, so HU, but I didn't go to Harvard, and I wanted to get the Harvard expertise. So you get access to all their articles, subscriptions, monthly letters. Well, guess what? This month's issue was on pricing, dynamic pricing, up pricing, cross pricing. I mean, it's not the whole magazine, but there's a really important section in that magazine just about this particular topic. So I would encourage you, what's $125 a year to get that subscription? And if you get, I'm a guy that says, if I can get one thing out of it, I just need one thing,
Right.
it's worth it. And I have used that time and time again. Any topic I'm focusing on, project management, like I said, pricing, strategy, it's very, very helpful. So it's complicated based on sectors, as we said. We can really drill down in it, but I would encourage everyone just to take a look, stop by the library, just look at the article. It'll give you some really good insight.
Thank you.
One last thing I would add is just manage your inventory. So once you've gotten the best price, you have 100 of those widgets on in your office or wherever you're selling it from, and you have employees there. Depending on what you're selling, if you're selling nuts and bolts, you probably don't have an issue. But if you're selling, so I outside of being a banker, I also have a fish farm, right? So I know I have to know how many fish I have, how many we sell, and how many are missing, right? And so you think about the employees, like what is walking out the door. You hate to say that, but particularly now when things are tight, that's an issue. So what can you do about that? Maybe you install surveillance, right? That could be a deterrent, depending on if it's an issue, right? If you've got 100 and you manage those numbers and you find that there's 20 of your widgets missing, that could be an issue. So keep that in mind as well. Once you get the best pricing, manage your inventory and know what's going in and what's coming out.
And how long you're holding the inventory.
Right.
Because if you're a business that's inventory, so let's say you sell clothes, you have a clothing shop, but you're holding clothes 90 days, 120 days, 180 days, that's probably not something, that means you're either buying too much of that up front, or you need to, maybe reduce the price so it can move. You don't want to hold inventory because inventory ties up cash. Right. So if you're tying up cash with inventory, and we look at that all the time with customers, the product's not moving fast, or you overbought, or you whatever you have to do. But you don't want to hold inventory for excessive amounts of time. So that's the other thing about it. We can talk about that kind of stuff all day long, but we don't have time.
Yes.
Amen.
We're going to open up to questions for the audience. I was going to ask one more question about patent and trademarks and IP and the importance of that, but I kind of got thrown off because for the last several months I've been working on an invention for all the ports on my phone and other technology, and I walked in here and there was a snap-in port organizer. And I thought, well, I'm going to start working on a different invention because someone already came up with this one. So I'm not even going to ask that question. We'll wait till the next one. But was that not amazing? I mean, what a great panel.
Everything with your permission, just take me 30 seconds. You have to have a team. You have to have a team. A banker, a lawyer, a CPA.
Yep.
If you don't have a team, you're going to be missing one of the legs of the stool. So you have to, not just the banker, but those 3 legs of the stool.
Awesome.
Wes, I say it's a triple T. Just kind of the way I talk to people. Your team, right? You got to have the right technology. That was another kind of prompt we didn't talk much about, but you got to have the right technology. And then, again, my favorite word, tenacity. You just got to go for it. Come hell or high water, I'm charging ahead and going forward. So I call it triple T. So.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, audience, this is your, oh my gosh, okay. All right, well, I saw your hand first, so you're 1, 2, 3. Go in that order.
Thank you. I want to thank the Greater Cleveland.
Yep. There's a mic so we can get you virtually. There are people listening to the program virtually.
All right. Thank you so much to the Greater Cleveland RTA's DBE. This is, for me, a confirmation of organizations walking the walk and not just talking the talk. My question, and I want to begin with Norm, to kind of set us up so that the rest of the panel can chip in onto it. How much does a financial institution provided financial literacy program count within the 3 prongs of the CRA?
Sure.
And if it does, then the rest of the panel, given what we've seen today, can you tell us a little bit about how your institution is reaching out to communities, to your small businesses, empowering them with information such as this, or even telling them, hey, look, there's a program going on at the Tri-C, for example. We're talking about bookkeeping. Do you want to attend, right? So, and you can just kind of approach it from any of the angles, whether you do a formal class every other month, or you send awareness information so that people who need it can go take it. Thank you so much.
Sure. Just a quick answer on that, and thank you for the question. Financial literacy and education is very, very important for CRA. As I mentioned, there's 3 tests for CRA: the lending test, which is 50% of the rating; the service test, which is where this falls under, the service test; and then the investment test. Each of those are 25%. So as an institution sponsors these initiatives, participates in these initiatives with community partners, it's really, really important, quote, for their CRA scorecard. But I also want to transcend CRA. Okay, I'm the CRA guy, but I want to transcend CRA, because if you think about it, the destiny of the community is intertwined with the destiny of our banking partners. We succeed as a community, we grow, we thrive, so do the banks. We don't succeed, we don't grow, we don't thrive. I don't know that the banks are going to be doing all that well. So this idea about wealth creation, financial literacy, financial wellness, it really transcends CRA, and it's where I think, some of the greatest partnerships exist for the banks and the community.
Okay, thank you. Second question, there was someone in the middle. Yep, right there. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Delana Benjamin with Terra Touch Lawn Landscaping Company. First and foremost, I would like to say I greatly appreciate all the information said here today. A ton of new information. I more so had an advice versus a question in regards to, she spoke about taking advantage of the information that's out there, resources in rooms like this. One, I think that the awareness and outreach could be a little bolder and more like, I honestly didn't know about this event till today, but it's a ton of great people in here, to gain information from. And then 2, it's a lot of like oversaturation of how to go about scaling up the next level business. So it can be a bit overwhelming when you're kind of frightened to like, okay, I think I need to, do this and structure this. And I feel like a lot of, at least my peers, get hung up on the basic bottom line of starting a business, the LLC, the business, bank account. There's so much more to that sandwich. And also we can be more educated about starting an insurance policy, younger, and how important that is, because it's very inexpensive from my understanding, but it's something that we just, kind of throw to the side. So it's a ton of rooms of, small business here, real estate here, and it's, it's different people. And it's kind of difficult to decipher, like, okay, is these real people? Is they selling something over here? Do we need to, people tell you to get out and get information. You gotta have the people like, just jump into it and start. People like, get education, but there's only so much education you're gonna sit there and be getting when you get the wheels rolling on the bus. So that's just something I wanted to just throw out there, because I know you guys are wondering, like, why is this large gap from the information that we're putting out here and the people that's taking advantage or consuming and acting on that information. Sorry for the hold up.
That was great.
Thank you.
That was great.
I think that's a fair point, and it's something I think about often. It can be overwhelming, and it's a lot of information. But I think everything goes back to organization and sitting down and figuring out what your strategy and your plan is, and just, trying to be consistent in that and hitting the reset button. You're going to have times where you like, forget this, I'm done, right? That's entrepreneurship. But you got to hit the reset button and remember why you're doing it in the first place, and then go back to your plan. And then like I was saying, like, it's just you, right? So think about everything in its own department. Today, you're being the marketing person. What does that look like for your business? What is your marketing strategy? How can you apply that with the tools and resources that you have now? Today, you're the bookkeeper. What does that look like, right? So literally sitting down and figuring out what those different areas are that you have to pay attention to in your business, and then managing that time, the time that you spend on those items, is important. because you are wearing all the hats. And eventually there are hats that you're going to give to someone else, right? You're going to take that hat off so that you can spend time on the business, not in the business. But initially, in the beginning, you got to know a little bit of everything, and that's just the name of the game. But just, I would say, rely on your folks, your resources. Create a team, like Wes was saying. Create a team of advisors that you can go to and ask those questions and get what you need. But, I mean, you kind of have to start to develop a corporate mindset, in so to speak, as a small business. Because even though you're small, the goal is to scale it. So you want to start with that structure off the bat, and then you make adjustments as you grow.
Great. Time for one more question? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think in part what I heard you speak to is the fact that there are a lot of things that are similar to this that may be going on that nobody knows about or not enough people know about. And that's also difficult to remedy. But if you are truly an entrepreneur, and if you're truly interested in growth economically, financially, then I think that there are enough things out here that if you seek them out, you'll find what you want. So a part of the responsibility is on the individual. Is it ways that we potentially could coordinate that better as a community? I think so, but you have organizations, as an example, just like ECDI right here, who is almost a clearinghouse for a lot of information. So figure out who has the information, who's sharing the information with the community, and plug into that. That would be my advice, my suggestion.
The only thing I would add really quickly to that is these forums are great for high-level information, but ultimately you need an individual plan for your specific business. So we talk about that relationship manager or that team. So now you sparked your interest. Now go find a banker, go find an accountant, and then tell them your specific vision, what is going on, where you want to go with your business, and then they can tailor that plan and help you bring that expertise to specifically to what you're working on. So this is just high level, got it. Now let me go out and get to that expert.
Excellent.
I just want to say real quick, I just want to say thank you for coming today. The word was put forth and you responded. Thank you for that question. I've been on that side of this panel, and it's not always easy to ask a question. If you get a moment, let's have a little sidebar afterwards and just chat some more, but I appreciate the question, and thanks for coming.
All right, over here. Last question.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Harvey. I own a small construction company, Harvey Rock. And I want to thank you all for coming in this afternoon and giving your time to our community. I have a question for anyone on this illustrious panel. How valuable is your Nexus Lexus score? I just remember several years ago losing out on a great opportunity, and I wasn't educated on Nexus Lexus. So if someone could just kind of speak to that, and any kind of information would be helpful in regards to Nexus Lexus.
I know that we utilize that in our background process. From a perspective of a score, I'm not familiar with that, but we do use that to see, because we are a SBA lender, have there been any issues that you may have had in the past with an SBA loan and things like that. So I don't know if every institution utilizes Nexus. And did you guys even know? I didn't know it was a score thing.
Yeah.
Is there a score? Okay, so for us, we don't necessarily look at a score. We're just going to look at it from a background perspective to see what your history is like.
I'm curious, did you miss out on a job or a credit request? Well, I actually went into a bank and my own personal, and all my numbers looked good, but I dealt with some turbulence when I went through the market crash. I was one of those investors that had, a couple dozen properties out there. I took some pretty hard hits, and they went all the way back there and saw some of the things that went on. Yeah. I mean, everything else checked the boxes. Yeah, thank you. I would say we utilize it as one of many things we use most banks to evaluate a credit request. It's important, just like your credit score, your personal credit score. So it's one of several things that banks will use to evaluate creditworthiness. It's not the only thing, and I wouldn't even say it's the most important thing.
Yeah. No.
It's just one of, half dozen things that banks look at. I think if everything else checks out and, if it's explainable, I think you should be able to move forward, but it's just one of the things most banks look at.
And every lender is different. Everyone is going to have a different criteria. So we may look at your situation and say, oh, you had a bankruptcy 10 years ago or 7 years ago. Oh, we're okay with that. 5 years. We if it's within 5 years. Anything that's over 5 years, we're fine. But a bank might have a different criteria. So it's just about learning what the criteria is, eligibility requirements are for each institution, and it may look different for each institution. They're going to look at the same things, but the weight that they put on it may be different, or whatever they're, even like equity injection, right? You get a loan, you have to inject some funds, right? That's your skin in the game. Banks may be 20, 25%, whereas us as an alternative lender, ours is 10 to 12%. So everyone's going to look at the same thing. It's just different requirements. So that might have just been a situation with that particular bank.
Okay, as we move to close. Okay.
Alexis, because that actually happened to me, and it's funny you say skin in the game, you're talking about money, but skin in the game can make a difference also. There's a big bank, and I'm serious, there was a very big bank that was supposed to be the biggest on SBA and helping minorities, and everything was good. I was doing an acquisition, buying the waterproofing division, $750,000, approval right away, pre-approval. And it got to the very end, and they said, oh, there's something on your Lexus. I never heard of that, my Lexus. I only dealt with the building permit. And there literally was a parking ticket in a different city when one of my children was driving the car. I was driving the car, and the ticket wasn't paid, that I knew nothing about. And this was on my report, and when I spoke all the way to the president and escalated it, because they couldn't understand, and they didn't say it was racial, they weren't the same skin as me, so they didn't want to say it was racial, but they were very shocked and said this never happened before. Eventually they did approve it, but you know what I did? I went to another bank. So that might be some of those things, and you guys say it, that might just be one of those unsaid things that when you know everything's good and you got going, they found a reason to turn me down. So I turned them down.
Okay.
Okay, I know there's two people that just keep staring me down, and I know people have to go, and I want to be respectful of people's times, and hopefully a few of you can stay over for a few minutes to answer these young ladies' questions because they're being so diligent. But I just want to say, did you guys eat in the schoolhouse today? I just want to thank our panelists. This was above and beyond what I expected. And I am a note taker. The people, my friends and coworkers that know me, I'm a note taker. So I was taking notes and I learned so much today. I'm closing retirement in the next 10 years, but I'm still learning because I love to teach and I love to learn. So one more round of applause for our panelists today. And Mr. Hilton Smith has closing remarks, but before then, Carl would like to introduce the president of the Greater Cleveland RTA. Carl.
All right.
Again, I just want to thank you to everyone that's present. But before we leave, I have to introduce my boss, okay, who is the head of this organization, who actually supports us. She gives us all the support, all the need, all financial gain, and the means to do what we do in our here. So just to my wife, thank you.
That's awesome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. All right, I'm not done. You've been in here for a little while. Okay. Just wanted to say thank you. I did come in the beginning, as Carl mentioned. My name is India Birdsong Terry. Many of you I know. I'm like, is that Chris? Yeah. Is that her again? Yeah. If I have not met you before, nice to meet you. Welcome to RTA. It's nice to be able to see all of the diversity in the room. Let me just say that right off. It's nice to be able to have RTA embracing the DBE community. Oh, yeah, you know, Mr. Sims. A big reunion. I will say, whether you're considered MBE, WBE, DBE, whatever your BE is, we appreciate the fact that you're investing back into our community. I'm very proud to say our. As you may or may not know, I'm not a native of Cleveland, but I did come here in 2019. I am a Chicagoan by birth, so there's always one or two in the room, and we're always the loudest. I appreciate you. I know, don't apologize. But it's nice to be able to be here with the community of business owners and business doers. This is something that I think is very important. We have to make sure that we have our voice heard. We have to make sure we have our faces heard or seen. And have to make sure that your books match with your desires. So making sure that we've got the financial kind of acumen that we have up here on the front is something that RTA really backs. And being able to have great examples of financial success, such as Mr. Kirkpatrick, is fantastic. And having the backing of Mr. Smith and all of the kind of elders, respectfully, of the community who have been there and done that, I think it's something that we have to make sure that we don't forget about. As Carl probably mentioned multiple times, RTA is here to do business with you, but we're here to do business with you in a way that makes you most successful, keeps us all out of the newspapers, and also keeps us in longevity. That's really important. I am the daughter of a business owner. You're either a teacher or an entrepreneur in my family. For those of us that decide to do that, it's very important that we also educate. So education is something that we do as Old Hat. And so that's my charge to the RTA family, to make sure that we have that included. Please keep in mind transportation. We're not just buses and trains, as you probably heard today. If you have not, shame on all of us. And making sure that we encourage with you that we have engineers and lawyers and contracts and track work and vehicle replacements and blah, 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 you fill in the blank. RTA is a motivator. We're a family of over 2,200 employees. So the person that you see out driving or the person that you see operating or maintaining our system is one of many, and that's only the employees that work directly for RTA. So I'm not even talking about the vendor community, which it would be for us. So we want to make sure, again, that you're successful. This will not be the only activity we have like this. This would be a series. As you know, we've done this a couple of times. When I talked with Diana and Carl and Brandon and Jared and everybody else in the room and Danielle, we want to make sure that we do this over and over again. So if there are things that we can get better at, let us know. We have a thick skin. I have one, so the fact that everybody else does. And if we're great at it, let us know. If we're not so great, let us know that too, so that we can continue to make this bigger and bigger. I would expect that the next time we do this, we'll double or triple the size. And we expect to have you guys back again, and tell a friend, and tell a friend, and tell a friend. Again, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Let us give a hand to our outstanding moderator.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, moderators, just like preachers, they can make or break. But she made us today.
Thank you.
The APA team, you worked so hard to make this day what it is. Could you please stand and be recognized? And to Carl and RTA, what a sight to see here today, under the direction of the leadership of an outstanding leader in India, Terry. I've been on this earth as of Sunday 78 years. Did I ever believe that I would see an India Terry leading RTA? We must back her, and we must back RTA for having the sense and the intelligence to bring her to Cleveland. And let's give her a hand. to our panel, I sat there in amazement of you. Being in this business, almost 50 years, to see you here today, such a blessing. Let me say, you started some businesses here today with the 5 of you. First of all, Excellence Incorporated. Secondly, Quality Incorporated. And thirdly, Blessings Incorporated, because you have been a blessing to us today. First of all, you didn't lie, you were honest. And I've seen a lot of panels who would say things, but they were afraid to say the real things. You gave us the real deal here today. And if any of you know anybody that was not here today, you tell them about these 5 great people and the kind of brilliance, which is another name of your new corporation, Brilliance Incorporated. Tell them about the brilliance that you heard here today. I saw a lot of people taking notes. Chris, I took notes. And I might be the oldest one in here, but you can always learn. We want to ask you if you will continue to work with us in a relationship that will bring success to this community. As successful as you are, how blessed you've been, and the blessing that you've placed on us here today. Stay with us. And you know we're going to be calling on you. We'd just like to get your schedules together without. Thank you so much. This program today for the businesses, and I've been told 3 times to say, please fill out the survey so that we can analyze what we've done, so that we can go back and study what you have said that we should do and have done. And we appreciate you. We appreciate you. But now a couple of things, as an old man might want to say to his children. NAMAC is an organization that was born some 50 years ago. And I was pleased to be a part of it. The motto of NAMAC is this: adversity can engulf the individual, but not the group. And so you as businesses here today, get to know each other. Work collectively. Chris, I think that's what we want to do. And work collectively with us so that we can aid you in your successes. Because if you're successful, we are successful in trying to in the brainwashing that we do, is to make it possible. Am I right, Martin? And we want to also let you know that to win, if you want to win, you got to know to win. If you are to win, you must have faith. Faith in yourselves, faith in your dreams, faith in your company, faith in God, and faith knowing that you can succeed. Because my definition of faith is when you step out on nothing, but you believe that something is there. Amen. Believe that something is always there. I don't know about you, but I feel good about today.
Yes.
You that came today to hear this kind of presentation is a blessing too. And let me tell you about the questions that you asked today. You did something a lot of people don't do. You asked your questions and did not give a speech before the question. And that gave the panel the opportunity to know what you said and answer you like they answered you. And I got to tell you, you're the heavyweight champions of panels. I've heard a lot of them. But today, and I prayed last night that all of you would come and to say what you said, because you gave us what we need. And you gave us, and you filled us today. The lunch was great, Carl, but we had some dessert today from this outstanding panel. And so we want to just, I'm going to praise you all over town. Archons, I'm going to praise you tonight because of the fact that you just don't get people like these young people here today, who are younger than me, to say what they said to you. And they not only just said, they came back with more to say to you. And Wes, like you said, you didn't say everything today. This is the first of many, we hope. And we can come up with the same panel. I don't want nobody else. Just the same panel, because now we know what they will give us. We don't have to worry about what they're going to give us. If we get some more people next time, we'll be on their schedule and they'll be on our schedule, and just come and give us what we need. So thank you so much for being here today. You are a joy to your businesses. You are a joy to your community. Chris, keep leading. Keep leading. That's right. That's right. And I tell you, Arian, she told me not to say anything about her. But how can I not? That's right. Because of what she's done in this community. Because of what she took from nothing to something. And she was the one that had that faith. That stepped out on nothing. But she believed that something would be there. And it's here. And we wish you great success in the future. God bless you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir. Excellent.